So the last time Barrow was around, I managed to grab myself a couple of affinity boosters to go on a weapon testing frenzy, which led me to finally trying out the Arca Titron. I've been wanting to build this since a while ago, but for some reason never did it until now. And yeah, I know this may seem like another boring video, but stick with me guys. Who knows, you may discover some new feelings for heavy weapons throughout the video. I actually wanted to cover a topic on Thermia Fractures and the Orvalis, but right now the event isn't exactly available. Personally, I always try to put out content that helps you guys in some way, not just to show off or anything like hey look, I've got a 504 mod dick. So anyway, let's get this review going and find out whether or not the Arca Titron can be fun to use. You might hate heavy weapons and that's understandable, but who knows, you might emerge a changed man or woman by the end of this video. Now before we get to the stats and performance numbers, let's talk about the way this thing looks. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to try out the Arca Titron is because of how funky it looks. I don't think it's unacceptable at all to call it a toy made out of Legos. Even though it's supposed to be a high-tech piece of a corpus weaponry, I mean, you can see it for yourself. I'd love to know what you think about the Arca Titron and large hammers in general, so feel free to leave some creative comments down below. The Arca Titron is also one of the few weapons where I feel you could genuinely go crazy with the color combos and still get a good or even awesome looking melee to stick onto the back of your Warframe with pride, most of the time. Also, the fact that this thing is huge, having it holstered to your Warframe of choice will almost certainly draw the eyes of those around you. And since Warframe is also very much about looking good in front of everyone else around you, aka fashion framing, this may very well be a big plus point depending on who you are. Finally, this toy also seems to vibrate. I mean, not in the same way as that kind of toy. This serves a completely different purpose, mind you. It is used to smash instead of, well, let's just say this thing won't require any batteries, okay? Actually, I have no idea. Let's just move on. So we all know that big heavy hammers are slow, and the Arca Titron is unfortunately not a special exception to this in any way. With an attack speed of 0.733, if you're used to much faster stuff, this will feel almost useless to you. No kidding, heavy weapons suffer from this super duper sluggish attack speed, which kinda feels out of place in Warframe IMO. This is a fast-paced game most of the time, if not all the time, so if it takes more than 5 seconds for you to just swing at an everyday enemy, you might as well let your teammates do the dirty work. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we'll analyze that aspect further later on. For now though, you can't help but notice the crit and status chances on this Lego hammer. 24% and 38% respectively. Those are insane numbers for a weapon at baseline. Really, even with a crit chance of like 15%, you could still kinda go the hybrid route. 24%? Oh heck yeah, easy red crits, especially if you got a cat to help you out with that. And with a crit multiplier of 2x as well as a total base damage of 180, you can expect some nice punishment for your enemies. Also, I'd like to mention that the Arca Titron comes with 2 polarities right out of the box, in addition to the stance polarity. That helps out with modding a lot. I'm really glad it's not your typical early gen corpus weapon with the 0 polarities like the Opticore. And with the Naramon polarity, it's just begging for a viral build if you ask me. Another thing that's special about this Lego toy is that each kill with it will grant you a buff called Slam Capacitor. What Slam Capacitor does is increase your next slam attack damage by 100%, as well as the range. Considering that mods like Reach will not affect the radius of slam attacks, this is a neat little feature. The slam capacitor buff can be stacked up to 10 times, leading to some massive 18 meter wide radius AoE damage, along with guaranteed electric procs. But how about baseline performance numbers? Well, I'll put the chart up for you guys to see. I kinda changed the power and speed test section for this and upcoming videos. From now on, you'll just see one test with a level 20 Nox with no mods for melee weapon testing. The reason for this is simple. Phase 1 of Melee 3.0 kinda got rid of a quick melee, which was how the previous testing was done. Nowadays, stances and combos play a more significant role. But even at baseline with no mods, there's probably gonna be some difference in timing between most if not all the weapons. Also, it saves me a hell of a lot of time. Yes, I'm being lazy. Sorry guys, I need to hire an independent weapon tester, I think. Which is not to say these tests are unfair to any weapon. I admit it's not perfect to test weapons this way, but at the very least it's consistent. No test can be perfect simply because of the random and sometimes wacky nature of Warframe. But anyway, to summarize on the LEGO Hammer's performance, it's significantly better than the Magistar, a little worse than the Zenistar. Keep in mind that the Zenistar is faster at 0.833 attack speed and it only deals heat damage, meaning when you proc heat, which is likely with the Zenistar's 25% status chance, that's gonna be a lot of damage. Of course, all these numbers are just to show the potential there is for the weapons and not to say one is outright better than the other. In a lot of cases that would be true, but some weapons may have certain traits that make it perform differently in real use case scenarios. Which brings us to the question, how does the Arca Titron perform in a real use case scenario? Well, let me tell you this, you will not like leveling it up on Hydron. The base attack speed makes it a pain to wield the LEGO Hammer around, and it's almost funny how your Warframe will transition into slow-mo each time you try to whack something. I personally believe there is no place for slow weapons in Warframe. They feel completely out of place. You either kill fast or let your teammates do the job. And with me being a speed junkie, longtime members of the channel will know, it doesn't look like the Arca Titron is gonna impress me in any way. But with some modding and a wonderful stance called Crushing Ruin, this thing actually did end up impressing me by a lot. So let's take a look at the build here. I've actually just used one Forma for this build. It's pretty cheap thanks to the polarities. I also tried maxing out attack speed with both Berserker and Primed Fury. You may think that's overkill, but I'm a guy who always loves more speed. Probably a little too much for my own good, but anyway, even with just two dual stat 60/60 mods here, the status chance is already up at 83.6%. And of course, Primed Fever Strike is a must if you have it, and going for a viral build does wonders for this thing. Allow me to demonstrate. Level 135 Corrupted Bombards along with some lesser Void garbage, still at level 135. Watch how they just get destroyed once the LEGO Hammer procs some viral. In fact, the charge slam attack is already enough to get rid of the lesser void mobs. And not to mention you turn into Thor on some really good stimulants thanks to the attack speed mods. But what makes this weapon really fun besides the crazy smashing is the stance. I don't usually talk about the stance as much as I believe it really comes down to personal preference. Some stance mods may offer stronger finisher damage or guaranteed procs, for example, but if you don't like how it feels, you simply won't enjoy using the weapon. But in the case of the Arca Titron, mastering the combos can make for a really rewarding experience. The trick is to weave your slam attack seamlessly into combat with the combos. With Crushing Ruins, which is the stance I have here, Shattering Storm is one of the combos that integrates slam attacks into the moveset. I admit I'm still trying to figure out the combos myself. Maybe macros would help out here. But even if you couldn't care less about melee weapon combos, the usual button mashing will get the job done pretty well. It also feels pretty damn satisfying to smash annoying, infested trash. The Arca Titron's one true weakness is the attack speed, really. It can be compensated with attack speed mods, but also that means you will have to compromise on other aspects of the weapon. I just wish this thing had more slots so I could put in an Organ Shatter or some more elemental mods. But there is a solution, and that is Volt. We all know how good of a speed boost he could give the whole squad, and just to illustrate my point, here's me going absolutely crazy with Volt's speed buff. That is delicious. Which makes me wonder about if and when I'll finally be able to build my very own Volt Prime. I just need the Neuroptics, and it's kind of a pain to farm for the relics this time around. Usually I'd be done in like 2 days for all the unvaulted Prime stuff, but with time constraints right now it's gonna take a couple of weeks at best. I might even end up having to buy it off of Trade Chat. But that's another topic to discuss another day. As far as the Arca Titron is concerned, it's a good Lego hammer toy. Highly recommended, 10 over 10. Even if it's not really a 10 over 10, it's probably miles better than the Wolf Sledge Hammer, which is almost impossible to get due to the wolf not dropping anything other than Molten Strike. Like, I've fought him enough times to get a Tempo Royale drop. Still, no parts for the hammer. But that's another rant for another day. If anyone has a ribbon for the Arca Titron, please hit me up in Warframe. I'm exclusively on PC. Give me a good offer. Also, let me know down in the comments if you'd buy this hammer, and what's your view on heavy weapons in general. Really, feel free to say hi even if you don't have any ideas for comments. I'd appreciate the engagement as always. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.